church, I'm going to read some very familiar verses to us. You've heard me talk about love a lot of different times and referencing these scriptures. I'm going to read them, but we're looking at it in a little bit of a different context for us today as we listen to what God wants to say. It says in 1 John 4, starting in verse 7, just reading two verses, 7 and 8. Dear friends, let us continue to love one another, for love comes from God. Anyone who loves is a child of God and knows God. But anyone who does not love does not know God, for God is love. So on the normal process of me looking at these scriptures and us talking about things, we definitely need to learn what love is, and it's God. And so here's the thought that God placed in my heart as I read this. How well do we know God? How well do we know God? That's right. So to know what love is requires us knowing God. So I don't pursue God to know what love is. I want to pursue God to know God himself. And in the process of discovering the fullness of who God is, and I don't mean that we would ever the fullness of God, but you know what I mean, as we grow in understanding of who he is, our ability to love and understand love grows with it. So I know this, that as I want to get to know someone, if we're in the human element and we're talking about someone we meet, it's very casual, and sometimes we just shake hands and say hello. People tell me their name and I walk away and I forget the name. The only way that I'm going to have a relationship and get to know that person is intentionality to go back and set times to communicate, spend time together. And in that ability of doing that, we get to know the person. So that's why when we're talking about our spiritual disciplines and our walk with God, we need to get to know him. That means that we have to intentionally spend time with him to get to know him. And when we do that, we will discover love, for that's who he is. It's amazing. So intentionally spend some extra time getting to know God today and throughout the remainder of the week. Let's be his church. God bless you today.